Double knitting board stockinette looks very much like normal single knitted stockinette, whether by needles, on a knitting loom, or on a knitting machine. But it looks exactly the same on both sides. On this afghan, it's the space between the checks and the dots. On this scarf, it's the part that goes around the neck. All of these are from a new video pattern series of mine. It's a sampler of double board stitches that can be made into anything from a pot holder to a scarf, a shawl, a blanket. And in this series, I'll show you how to plan and create all of those and vary them to your personal taste. But you need to understand double board stockinette to begin. And just to make sure everybody's in practice, this video, to make it absolutely clear. And you can be practicing while I polish up the pattern videos and get them ready for publication in early February 2020. So here is how it's done. The stitch uses an equal number of pegs on each side of the board. What you're looking at shows the last peg knitted was the back one on the far left. To wrap the next row, we zig and zag across the board, catching every other peg. Begin with peg 1 on the left front, zig over to peg 2 on the left back, zig forward to peg 3 on the left front. When we get to the end, wrap across to the opposing peg, straight across, and then start zigging and zagging back. This row is easy to wrap because all you're doing is making sure that any peg that wasn't wrapped gets wrapped on this pass. Then bottom loop gets knitted over top loop on every single peg. I'm demonstrating here on an old version of knitting board from the Authentic Knitting Board Company, back when that's what they were called. But I want to make it perfectly clear, your homemade board will work. Another brand of board, another model of the same brand. I'm partial to Kiss looms. They work very well. I have some Noble knitters, which are now out of production. They do a beautiful job too. This is not a fussy process. You need 2 parallel lines of pegs and a slot between them, and you can make this fabric. Sometimes people wonder if there's a right way and a wrong way to insert your tool. I work from the top and flip over, as you can see, pushing down, flipping over. However, if you like to pick up the loop with your tool pointing the other direction, it makes no difference at all to the final stitch. Do what feels comfortable in your hand and succeeds for you, success being keeping even stitches and not dropping any of them. And then I always give the row a tug down to set the stitches after knitting them all over. That tends to even them up as well. Now, here are some refinements in case you're having trouble. I always knit over the last stitch that I wrapped first to sort of lock the row into position, and that helps me. But if yours tends to grow for whatever reason, as I just showed you, just tighten it back up before wrapping again. It's a very common thing to have an edge stitch be a little sloppy. So on the right hand edge, since I tend to wrap from left to right, then around the right hand end pegs, I give them a little tensioning tug before wrapping back. Now I'm holding the yarn tightly in my left hand while I knit over, and I'll tug it again when I begin to wrap. Another thing that can cause an uneven stitch is accidentally pulling it too hard or snagging it on something. Such a stitch has borrowed yarn length from the nearby stitches, especially those on the left and right, but just across the board. Just tug as needed to adjust the yarn back to where it belongs. Like anything else, it takes practice. But once you have practiced, it's both quick and easy, and it's not difficult to get even stitches. Here is the beginning of a wrapped row, super duper slow, so that you can really focus in on it. Now get out your board and your yarn and start practicing. You'll soon be ready to knit along with me, whether you choose a scarf or an afghan. Once you are comfortable with double stockinette, working up to the ones we'll be knitting, which are stripes, Fair Isle, intarsia, and 2 textural stitches, won't seem difficult at all. This is the basis for everything that we need to know right here. I will also be showing you how to make the keyhole for a keyhole scarf. There's more than one method, but we'll do one together. And if you enjoy these projects, you may enjoy my book, Picture This, for all kinds of projects using color knitting on double knitting boards. It's available on Ravelry.